What's going on? I'm that Scottish nerd. Welcome back to my channel, and I have a flippin' frustrating deck for you today as we're playing some Wailord V, trying to get some big knockouts with the Ocean Waves attack, although it's not to be as I have pretty bad luck it would seem. So if you enjoy meme videos and fun deck profiles, be sure to subscribe to my channel down below as I do bring you plenty of those. Here we go, starting us off with the Wailord V. Been wanting to cover this card for a while, as Wailord usually has some pretty fun cards overall, and the huge amount of HP that Wailord always has is always a welcome bonus and a welcome stat to have. So yeah, I've been wanting to make a deck out of this, but just not had the consistency until recently. And yeah, as you'll see in the matches, the coin flips aren't too great for us. So the main attack here, Ocean Waves for 4 water energy. You deal 120 damage for each heads that you flip, and you get to flip 3 coins. So if you flip all heads, that's going to be 360 damage, and you totally wipe out any VMAX Pokemon or below in the format, which is every Pokemon in the format. Or if it goes badly, then you're going to get 3 tails, and you're not going to deal any damage whatsoever, which is obviously going to be the worst case scenario, and as you'll see, and as I alluded to earlier, that is definitely what happens. And you also have a nice first attack here in Draw Up. For 1 water energy, you can actually attach 3 water energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon, so it's very effective for getting you set up in those early turns. The same way that the ADP decks use their Alter Creation for a turn, you can use that Draw Up to soak up some energy and then be able to start flipping coins the next turn. You don't really have to worry about anything else because you do have such a huge amount of HP. You have 280 HP on a basic, which is the same amount as Tag Team Pokemon's, but this Wailord only gives up 2 prizes. But also we have the 4 retreat costs, so we can actually increase the HP by using the buff padding here, which increases the HP by 50, giving us a total of 330 HP, which is the same as a lot of VMAXs, and is actually more than a lot of VMAXs as well. So the huge amount of HP is the main selling point here, and of course being able to potentially get one-hit knockouts. Add to that, we have the Mallow and Lana, which is going to allow us to heal some of that damage as well, as decks typically deal like the 160 range for a lot of decks, or even if they deal in the 200s, then we could heal half of that damage, which is very good for us. Of course, we have energy acceleration in the form of Frostmoth here. You can get to attach water energy to your water benched Pokemon, which is going to be effective in powering up our Wailords turn after turn, and that's the main energy acceleration in combination with the first attack on Wailord. Like I said, this is all aimed around consistency, so we have our Quick Balls and Evolution Incenses as well as multiple Dedenne and Crobat in order to get through our deck as early and as quickly as possible so that we can get our Wailord set up typically on turn 2 if possible. Now we have a couple of wash energy here as well to prevent any effects of attacks that my opponent might be coming in with, but typically you want to focus on those basic energy because those are the ones that you can accelerate. And then everything else is pretty standard. Like I said, we have the Mallow Lanas, we have the boss's orders, Papads to reuse things, also the Nessa here, so that we can get the water energy out of the discard pile, so that after a Wailord has been knocked out, we can use the Nessa to recover those energy, and also the Wailord if we need it, and then we can keep attacking that way. But everything else is pretty standard. We've got the buckets here to get energy out of the deck so that we can accelerate it with the Frostmoth. And then the other key card that we have in the deck is the Glimwood Tangle. This is going to allow us to reflip on an attack. So if we use our attack Ocean Waves, we get 3 tails. Then we can use Glimwood Tangle to hopefully get some heads out of that. But as you'll see, we're not so lucky. I swear this game is supposedly not rigged, but I feel like it is because I never get any good knockouts with this deck. So let's get straight into these matches, see what we can make happen or not happen, and hopefully you enjoy the video either way. Getting into our first match here, starting us off, we are up against another fellow water deck from the looks of things, but their deck is going to be spreading a bunch of damage around the board, or at least trying to. So we'll have to see what we can do about that. We're going to be using our quick ball here. I think we'll discard a Evolution Incense. We're probably just going to go for the Professor's Research, to be honest. I did not play the Mew in this deck, which is definitely questionable and perhaps regrettable as well. We'll have to see. Kind of want to play down the Crobat just to get a couple of extra draws, but considering my opponent's going to be spreading damage, that's probably not going to be a good idea overall. So we'll just use the Professor's Research to see if we can get into a Wailord. We do get the Wailord, but no way of retreating our Snom, unfortunately. So we'll just have to pass it over to my opponent. And we do at least have the Frostmoth. We actually have double Frostmoth, so we just need the Water Energy on this following turn, and we'll be able to start flipping a bunch of heads, hopefully getting a one-hit knockout on my opponent's Darmanitan, and if so, that would be excellent. Let's see if they get into the VMAX, or if they're just going to attack us. They do have an attack for 2 energy, which can deal 50, so could be reasonable here since they are taking a knockout on our Snom. Definitely makes sense. The heads there's not going to be irrelevant whatsoever, and I think we are going to be forced to put up our own Snom once again, just so that we have the Frostmoth available to us, and hopefully we draw into the air balloon here. And I'll go ahead and put down the Glimwood Tangle since we are going to be using the Professor's Research, and just discard our hand, see what we get into. We unfortunately get all of the energy but no air balloon. So I'm going to be forced to use the Dedenne here to discard our hand once again. And we're going to be attaching all of these energy, putting down the Dedenne for Deadly Change. We are losing a lot of resources, mostly the Frostmoth there, the extra Frostmoth that we had. And we do have a 1 retreat cost here, no 2 retreat cost on Frostmoth, which is not ideal because now we can't retreat, but we can use our quick ball. So we'll go with that, get rid of the boss's orders, and we'll grab ourselves another Wailord, so we can use that to attach more energy onto our Wailords here. We have the Capacious Bucket, so we can use our Frostmoth once again, and we can have 2 Wailord set up, all ready to go, and we should be having no issues here. Don't really mind if my Frostmoth gets knocked out now. We can even attach one of these buff paddings if we want to, but yeah, sure, we'll attach one onto the Wailord with 4 energy. Not going to put them both down just in case my opponent happens to be playing a Field Blower, or not Field Blower, Tool Scrapper, that's the one. Yeah, I've not been seeing a lot of people play Tool Scrapper, but just on the off chance that they are, then I don't want to lose both of my buff paddings. Want to at least keep one of them on. And we did have to go through a lot of resources, as I said. Losing a bunch of Frostmoth, as well as going to be losing the one that we have in play. We also lost a Nessa. Other than that though, we should be okay. All we have to do is actually flip some heads. That's going to be the crucial part here, and it is always the crucial part when you are playing a Wailord V after all. It's kind of the whole point of the deck is to flip 3 heads. My opponent has the Professor's Research, so they're able to draw 7 cards. And see a lot more off their deck here, looking to get a Darmanitan VMAX powered up, I'd imagine. They are going to be retreating, so not really sure why they chose to do that. They could have just kept it in the active and attached some more energy, but they are retreating. They have the energy retrieval, and they also have the VMAX, so they're probably going to be attaching all of those energy, perhaps even all the energy that they need. Let's see if they got like a switch to go back into it. That would definitely be good for them, but if we do get all of the heads that we need, then we're going to be just fine. Looks like they do not have that though, and they are actually going to be damaging themselves, which is pretty funny. Now we only need to flip 2 heads here in order to knock out this V, and there's the air balloon that we needed like 2 turns ago, and that's unfortunate. I'll put down the buff padding now, why not, just in case my opponent tries to use a boss's orders or something, sure. We're going to go and get 1 head, because of course we are, so we're going to have to reflip with Glimwood Tangle, and the odds are against us. We only get 1 head, which is a mere 120 damage. Definitely not a knockout, and now my opponent's going to be able to hit into us with their Darmanitan V, or they could even retreat if they have the energy and start hitting us with the VMAX in the back there. We do have a substantial amount of HP, so my opponent isn't going to be able to get a 1-hit knockout on us. And that's pretty much all we are relying on here, is trying to get knockouts on my opponent before they're able to win the game. They're also spreading a bit of damage there, and we're just going to have to try and flip 2 heads. We do get the boss's orders, which is kind of nice, but I'd much rather have the energy at this point. And we could get 1 heads again, are you serious? Let's go with the Wailord Tango and we're going to get all tails, are you serious dude? My luck is terrible with coin flips in this game apparently. Only ever goes good when it's like Crushing Hammer, but when it comes down to an attack like this, where I have to flip a bunch of energy, or flip coins even, oh man, I cannot believe that. We've only flipped 1 heads. Oh my, this is bad. This is really, really bad. My opponent has 1 knockout that they need to take. We do get into another Wailord and Frostmoth, which sure I'll put down. And we can get the energy as well, which is the main thing that we were looking for there. And we'll go ahead and try and flip some more coins. If we get 2 tails, 1 heads. Again, we need to flip so that we can actually get double heads. And we'll finally get the double heads, so we actually get the knockout on this VMAX, taking 3 prize cards. Now again, my opponent is not going to be able to get a knockout on us, as they're only dealing 200 damage into the active. And we did just pick up our Mallow and Lana as well, which is going to give us a little bit extra time here. So hopefully my opponent isn't able to get a boss's orders into their hand. They have a Pokemon Communication. Boss's orders would close up the game for them here, so they are going to be digging for that, I have to imagine, since they can just use boss's orders on our Denny, and that's going to be an easy knockout for them. So yeah, using the Daddy Change in order to dig through their deck. They're not immediately playing anything, so that tells me that they don't have the boss's orders. They're going for a quick ball. Is it going to be a Crobat? It is indeed a Crobat here. So they're digging as hard as they can to try and find this boss's orders. They have a bunch of cards still left in their deck, so there's a good chance that they don't find it here. They have a Capacious Bucket on their own side. Just going to get them 2 water energies out of the deck. They have the Telescopic Sight. Just going to increase their damage to my Pokemon V and GX and all that, but they have the boss's orders. They were just stalling and BMing us. They got the boss's orders for the Denny knockout, and it goes to my opponent because we flipped so many tails there. We can even have a look here at our stats. Dude, that is ridiculous, the amount of tails that we flipped. Heads flipped 4, tails flipped 12. That is not what you want to see with the Wailord V deck. Let's try and flip the opposite of that in the next game. Alrighty, game 2, we are up against an ADP deck, since they are of course starting with the Arceus Palkia, so most likely playing it with the Zacian, and of course, yep, there it is. So we're going to have to try and get a bunch of energy on as quickly as possible, but at least my opponent is going to give us a turn to get set up, since they are having to use their GX attack. But it will also be a very difficult matchup, since they are dealing additional damage and looking to use boss's orders to get around our Pokemon. We're going to be losing a Palpad here, which is also a bit unfortunate, as well as the Wailord Tango is going to be a problem, since my opponent is most likely playing the Chaotic Swell, as the ADP deck typically does play. We can at least go for the Quick Ball here. I guess I'll get out another... I mean, we do have the Marshadow. I think I'll get out another Snom here, just so that we have it, in case my opponent does any kind of shenanigans and tries to bring up the Snom that we have in play already. So I'll go with that. Hopefully we get into what we need here to try and get some stuff going. We have the Bucket as well as the Evolution Incense, but not a whole lot going on. We're not able to discard any energy either, which is not any good. So I guess we'll just reluctantly attach to the active and pass over to my opponent. Really would have loved to have been able to discard energy there, so that we can actually get the first attack off and accelerate onto ourselves. That would have been ideal. But now we're going to be relying on getting a Frostmoth as well as a Wailord out of the deck. My opponent does grace us with a Marnie, which could actually help out since our hand wasn't looking too hot there. And yeah, really want a Frostmoth as well as a Wailord and a couple of energy. We do get the Frostmoth at the very least, but no Wailord that we can take advantage of. There's a Professor's Research that we can make use of. And my opponent is able to use the increased damage from their attacks, as well as taking extra prizes, of course, but that's not going to help them out too much against our Wailords. They still have to do multiple attacks into that guy. So we'll go ahead with the Evolution Incense, get our Frostmoth out of the deck, and I'm actually going to use the bucket here just to get 2 out of the deck and discard them. That's going to allow us to get our Wailord set up nice and easily with that first attack. A little bit slower than I would have liked, but we do get another Wailord here that we can attach energy onto, which is perfectly fine by me. And then we will go with the first attack here, getting to attach all 3 of those energy. Like I said, my opponent has no way of getting a one-hit knockout on us unless they do something absolutely insane with, like, oh, what would they need here, like a Tool Scrapper to get rid of our buff padding, as well as a Leon to increase their damage. Something ridiculous like that that's going to rely on a whole bunch of combo cards, which I highly doubt that they're even playing in their deck. So they're most likely just going to be hitting us for 180, and then we can swing into them hoping that we get a good amount of damage here off of the coin flips. They do indeed attack into us. They're going to be able to get energy into play as well, which is pretty good for them. We do have a Malolana in our hand, which I am tempted to make use of here. That would mean that we only have 60 damage on us, which in combination with the Zacian wouldn't be enough to get a knockout on us, which I kind of like. Sure, they could get a knockout if they got rid of our buff padding, but that is something that's going to be forced out of them in order to deal with our Wailord. So we'll go for that, and Malolana going and discarding our Dedenne, I think, as well as perhaps the boss's orders. We can always get it back with Palpad if we need to use a Dedenne, but at the same time I don't want to be putting Dedenne into play because it is going to be an easy target for my opponent. So we'll just discard those. And then go into the Frostmoth, retreat back into Wailord, and start flipping some coins here. Let's see if we can get some heads. We need 3 heads for a knockout. There's 2. That is a reasonable amount of damage, but let's go ahead and be greedy here. Yeah, sure, we got bad luck in the last game, but let's be greedy, and of course the greed does not pay off. We should have taken the 100, or not 100, 240 damage. We should have taken that because, man, that would have been much better than dealing no damage at all. And dude, this Wailord deck absolutely hates me. I really just want to have fun here, play an enjoyable deck which is going to be fun for me, but it's just not having it at all. Hopefully you guys have some more luck if you want to play this deck. My opponent does hit into us again, of course, which totally makes sense. All we can do with the Nestle get back Frostmoth, which isn't going to be any use to us. I think we'll boss his orders up a Zacian. This one has an air balloon, I guess we'll go with that. And at least then we only need to get 2 heads on our coin flips in order to get a knockout here. And of course we only get 1, let's flip again with Gloomwood Tangle. And we get 3 tails again! Are you kidding me, dude? 3 tails twice in a row for our returns, and we had the same thing in the previous game. Now my opponent can just attack with their Zacian, nice and simple, take, what, 4 prize cards on our Wailord V, and we don't even have any energy or anything in our hand. I mean, we have the Nessa, I suppose we have the energy, but considering we've not been able to deal any damage, never mind even taking a knockout, this is absolutely abysmal. Man, okay, we can get the Wailord back as well, I suppose, as well as the 3 energy. That's kind of helpful. But my opponent only needs to take out 1 more knockout. They can even knock out a Frostmoth, and considering their hand size, they're most likely going to have a boss's orders in that hand in order to take a knockout. So all I'm really hoping for now here is a knockout of our own. I suppose we'll play the bucket out and attach those energies as well. The only reason not to, I suppose, just in case my opponent doesn't get the knockout, is all we're really hoping for here. So we'll go ahead and attach those with our Frostmoth, retreat into our other Wailord V, and let's see how many tails we flip this time. There's 1, there's another one, and there's 1 heads. Of course we have to go with the Gloomwood, we get a heads, tails, and of course another tails. So definitely do not recommend playing this deck, if you have horrible luck like I do, either that or the game is just rigged against me, because it seems like I'm not able to flip any heads whatsoever. We've only gotten a handful of heads and what, over 10-15 tails in this match alone. Absolutely abysmal. My opponent retreating into the ADP here, of course, because they had the air balloon, so they're able to do that very easily. And they could have just hit us with the Zacian. Looks like they aren't able to actually get the boss's orders, so they're not going to be able to win the game here. And we don't have anything to do either other than attack with our Wailord once again. No Malolana this time, and it's just going to be a bunch of coins getting flipped. Glimwood Tangle, sure, it's not going to make a difference. We're going to get one heads again anyway, so I'll hit you for 120 I guess, and pass it back over to my opponent, where they can just attack into us and win the game very easily on my opponent's side. Man, this was not how I expected this video to go. I thought this was going to be heads galore, but apparently that's not the case. Let's try one more time. Okay, third time lucky. We have a bunch of mulligans here that we can make use of at least, so I'll definitely take that. We have triple quick ball in our opening hand, so we'll go with this. Quick ball away a water energy and immediately grab ourselves a Wailord V. Does look like we have prized one of them, which is a little bit of a shame. And we can attach a water. We can quick ball, discard another water, so that we can get that first attack off if we need to. Also grab another Frostmoth, or Snom here I should say, to go into the Frostmoth soon. And we'll attach the buff padding. Not really anything else that I want to play out, or anything that I really need at this point, so we'll hold off on the rest of this hand and see what my opponent has for us. Pass over to them. They are playing a Lapras deck, which is very interesting. You don't see that very often, and most likely also playing a Frostmoth of their own in order to accelerate their energy. We're going to be seeing a Training Court from my opponent. That's actually pretty helpful in recovering our energy if we need that. But for the most part, we are just going to be putting our Glimwood Tangle into play, as we do need to try and flip as many heads as possible after all. And not that it's going to happen, but we can at least try, and Glimwood does increase our odds. So, gotta put it into play. We see my opponent getting a second Lapras V. Is the very nice shiny versions from Shining Fates. Do really like those artworks. See a quick ball from them. Is it going to be the Snom now? It is indeed the Snom. So like I said, they're playing the Frostmoth to accelerate energies onto their Lapras VMAXs. And they're also going to be using the first attack on Lapras, which also accelerates an energy card from their hand. And they get to switch out of the active in order to protect it, which is very nice for them. We have the Air Balloon top deck, which is great. And I'll go for the quick ball here, discarding Professor Research. And I think we'll just get a Wailord V out of the deck so that we have a backup. I'll put down the Glimwood Tangle and go for our Professor's Research. No much point in using the Denny, as it's just going to be a liability overall. We'll evolve into our Frostmoth that we got, and we do also have a bucket, which is going to be all of the energy that we need in order to get our first Wailord powered up here, which is excellent. And like I said, we have our Frostmoth. That's going to accelerate our energy onto a revenged water Pokemon. Let's get all three of those energy on there. Not really anything else that we want to play out in this hand. Quick ball doesn't really get us anything at the moment. Not anything of use anyway. And we can flip some coins on my opponent, see if we can get any damage. We finally get double heads once again. The only second time in the video that we've got double heads. And we're actually able to get a knockout this time around on our opponent's Lapras V. And we did pick up our third Wailord off of the prizes, which is very nice. My opponent putting up the Lapras, that tells me that they have the VMAX in their hand, or at least a way to get it, in addition to a water energy as well. And they're just going to skip it up. I guess they were too scared of the Wailord. You know what, I'll take that after the first two games being completely terrible luck. I'll totally take that victory for sure. Let me know what you guys think of the Wailord V deck, if you're going to try it out. If you have better luck at coin flips as well, there's a bunch of decks that are half decent and fun with coin flips, so let me know what your luck is like, and I'll see you in the next video.